Welcome. I'm Harmony Slater, your host of the Finding Harmony podcast. Over the past 20 years, I've taught thousands of yoga teachers and students to explore the intersection between ancient wisdom and modern everyday life, using mind-body practices to heal, awaken, and manifest their dreams from the inside out. This podcast is a sanctuary for those feeling overwhelmed by life's challenges. Are you ready to jump in and discover how these challenges aren't actually in the way, but are the way to finding harmony? Let's invite the magic back in. Here's a question for you. What does it take to truly feel at home in your body? To feel flexible, strong, to have stamina, to have deep awareness, while also feeling connected to your yoga practice in a way that feels sustainable for your life. Today, Russell and I are joined by our dear friend of many, many years, 2 decades, Krista Shirley. She is a level 2 authorized teacher. She's also a Pilates instructor and the founder of the Yoga Shala in Orlando, Florida. Krista's dedication to her own practice is evident. And today we're having a whole new conversation with her. If you'd like to listen to our first conversation with her, you can find that link in the show notes. It was several years ago. But today we're talking about how she has evolved her teaching and her practice to include ways that worked for her to rehabilitate what could have been absolutely detrimental injury. Krista really has a beautiful way of building sustainable movement practices and using all of her years of experience in the Ashtanga yoga practice to evolve movement for her students and to help her students who wouldn't really be able to come into a traditional Ashtanga yoga setting, start to reconnect and become familiar with their bodies again, especially after an injury or an illness, or maybe just not being connected or in their body for many, many years, and helping them to create a daily habit of practice that truly supports them, not just their physical health, but their overall well-being. And sooner or later, she's noticed they start trickling into her Mysore room. And so this is going to be a really interesting and fascinating conversation. I'm so excited to share Krista's story and her own personal evolution with her own practice and her way of teaching it with you. But before we dive in, I just want to remind you that the 21-day Money Magic and Manifestation Challenge only started just yesterday, and it's not too late to join us. So come on in. You're going to get all of the daily practices, voice notes from me, videos, journal prompts, rituals that are designed specifically to help you shift those subconscious beliefs, your money story that you may or may not even be aware of, and truly raise your frequency to attract more aligned abundance into your life. You can easily catch up. Only 1 or 2 days have passed by the time you're listening to this. Come into the journey. The link is in the show notes. This is going to be powerful. Let's make November such a powerful month. Come in. Let's begin. And let's begin this conversation with Krista. Hi, I'm so happy you're here. Welcome, Russell.
Welcome to the Finding Harmony podcast.
We are joined today by our beautiful friend, Krista Shirley. How are you, my dear? Welcome back to the Finding Harmony podcast.
Thank you for having me back. And how are you doing?
Yeah, good. It's so nice to connect with you again. It feels like it's been forever.
It's been a minute. It has been a minute.
It's August, right? Well, not when this is being played out over the internet sphere, but how long has it been since Sharat died now?
like 10 months?
10 months?
Almost?
Really?
9 months, maybe?
9 months? So it's so like in October?
November.
In November? It's been that long already?
Yeah, so 9 months.
Oh, man.
Close to a year.
But I mean, talking to an old friend like you and talking to somebody who's so steeped in the community of Ashtanga yoga, and like that's our thing. Like that's the event, and we haven't spoken to you since that event. And I found out, I think only recently, that you were there when it happened. And so I that'd be the first, if I saw you on the street, that'd be the first thing I'd ask you about.
I was in Virginia. I was actually in Miami with Shrat in October, and then was in Virginia with him in November. And I mean, I don't know. I'm sure the rest of the community feels the same way. I'm definitely still grappling with the fact that he's even gone. I've had so many roller coasters of emotions about not only him, but our lineage and practice and where we're heading from here. But I'm really grateful, actually, that I was in Virginia. I'm so grateful. The biggest memory I actually have, and I wrote a poem about it when he passed away, the day of the hike, he stood at the bottom of the start of the trail to make sure that he filmed every one of us starting our trek up the mountain. And I feel like that really encompasses who he was. I feel like he was always there as that rock for us. And he was there to show us the way and show us how to walk up the mountain ourselves. So I always hold that in my heart because it was really special. But it was a very heartbreaking experience. And Faith Zameka, who was one of my very best friends, she owns Woodley Park Yoga. She and I were there together, stayed together, and we had Faith was there.
Man.
Yeah, Faith was there. And actually, I'm so grateful she was. She's such a beautiful spirit and so grounded. And I don't know if you know that she has a master's now, and she's I don't want to say this incorrectly, but she works at a hospital and end of life. I'm losing
like
the
a
word.
death doula.
And she's very good at the end of someone's life. And so we had been up in the mountain, and John had actually told us that Shrat wasn't feeling well and had gone back down. And so we actually made our way down sooner than almost anybody else. And we saw everything, and Faith just kind of held me, and we said prayers together. And as weird as it is to say, I'm just so grateful that I was there. I feel like it brought me some incredible closure, and I feel like I was able to share my heart without saying a word to him and try to help send him off in peace. But it was really heartbreaking. And
so like you came down the path and you came around the bend, and you saw the chair, and you saw him on the ground, and people were doing chest compressions on him when you arrived.
So there was a little bench, and when we got down there, Shrat had already been on the ground, and one gentleman was doing CPR. And then another John, I forget his last name, old school John, came down, and he was able to do CPR. So there were two of us yoga students that were able to.
Or a different John.
Thank you. Thank you. He's in California.
Yeah, John Wilhelm.
Yes, thank you. And probably about 25, 30 minutes after we got to the bottom of the mountain, the paramedics had come. But strangely enough, I feel like I felt the moment when Shrat left his body, and it was long before the ambulance got there. And Faith kind of felt the same thing. So, and it was beautiful when Kino came down the mountain and Tim came down. She kind of, like she does, she kind of took charge, and she really, I'm so grateful for that, because she was able to call Shruti, and it was a heartbreaking experience to watch, but it was so beautiful that so many people that loved him were there, and that he was in nature. And I personally believe, I vividly remember Shruti, things that she said and how she was feeling. But I just have to believe that it was supposed to be that he was to pass, not with her so close by. I just have to believe that everything happens for a reason. And I will say one thing that was really, really touching. The next morning when we all gathered, Shraddha came in, and she had the day Shrat passed. That morning he came in, and he never said much about himself, as you guys know, right? And he made a comment about how he was tired, that he had taken Shraddha to the airport, and that he cried. And I just remember thinking, you never share things like that. And it just felt touching, but I do believe it's almost that he subconsciously knew he wasn't going to see her again. And the next morning when Shraddha came in, she was holding his shoes and she spoke to us as a group. And she made a comment about that, how he had cried at the airport. And that was something that she had never seen before with her dad. Mm-hmm. And it just felt so powerful in that moment. Like maybe he couldn't put in words, but he knew. Yeah. And I think that's beautiful too, in a way, that he was so self-aware. Wow. Even when he wasn't aware of what was happening, he knew that was the last time he was going to get to see her. So,
well, it sure is and was an earthquake in our community and a kind of before and after event. Like there was before 9/11 and there was after 9/11. And here we are post, and it seems like every kind of decision that we make with Ashtanga yoga, with our own practice and with our community and with everything, it seems like it's now filtered through this post condition. And I'm wondering, like, we can talk all day about ourselves, but we got you on the podcast to talk about you. Like, what has changed? What has changed for you? What fundamentally is different for you now?
Speaking from my little person self, I have a number of other things that are going on. So when I dealt with my nerve damage and I crawled my way back to my practice, I kind of convinced myself maybe I'm never going to teach again. I convinced myself all these different things. And then I was able to kind of do primary series again. And I remember, I'll never forget when I went to Miami in 2023. It was the first time I had seen Shrat since my nerve damage. And I just briefly said, I've got this nerve damage, what should I do? And he says, do what you can. And it felt like when I was pregnant in Mysore with him. He was very loving, very observant, didn't say much. And I remember that in 2023, I started doing a little bit of second series again for the first time in years. And he made some sweet comments, but I could tell he was just kind of watching me and probably being like, whoa, that girl's definitely got some nerve damage.
For those who didn't hear our first podcast with you, I think it was like back in 2020 even, or 2021. But the last time I saw you in person, I was teaching at your studio in Orlando, Florida. And you had the nerve damage at that time quite severely. Can you just briefly explain what happened, how you got it, and sort of the aftermath, like Reader's Digest version?
Yeah, so just a quick and dirty, I was helping my mom get out of her wheelchair late 2017. And anyway, long story short, she was obese and she had a stem stroke. So she was literally trapped in her body. She couldn't feed herself, bathe herself, walk or anything. She lost her balance, really pulled my arm. I ripped my supraspinatus clean off the bone. After about a year of PT and all kinds of other stuff, I did a routine orthoscopic shoulder surgery that accidentally gave me a very nasty infection, almost killed me. So then I traveled around the country, actually during COVID, seeing all these different doctors, and settled on a doctor in Colorado. Him and his team did a revision shoulder surgery, but it severed my suprascapular nerve. And for those of you who don't know, your suprascapular nerve is one of 4 rotator cuff muscles that powers your infraspinatus and supraspinatus. So elevation and external rotation of your arm. That went undiagnosed for almost a year because nobody believed that somebody severed my nerve in surgery. And when we did a revision surgery, it wasn't a revision surgery. It was supposed to be a nerve decompression surgery because the nerve study showed that my suprascapular nerve at the suprascapular notch was not working, but from my brainstem to my scapula was. So they thought my nerve was impinged. And when they opened me up, they saw that my nerve had in fact been severed. So they made the decision to do a spinal accessory nerve transfer. Your spinal accessory nerve powers your, among a few other things, your trapezius. And so they took the nerve that powers my trapezius on my left side to try to reinnervate anything or whatever they could of my shoulder. Okay. I woke up to that surgery with even less function and was told I had to wait 12 months to see anything if I did. And I never did see anything. I never got any function back in my supraspinatus or my infraspinatus, and I lost my middle and my lower trapezius. I still have some fibers of my upper trap on my left side, but I was very dysfunctional. And in that period of time, I had to...
case, isn't it?
It is a malpractice case, but let me just educate you there, because I did look into it. But I had the surgery in Colorado, and Colorado is one of the most fortified states for medical professionals, meaning they have a lot of tort reform, meaning that it's very difficult for you to sue somebody when there's malpractice. Wow. And in fact, even though I had a case, it's set up in such a way that we could have sued the hospital and the doctor and the surgery center and everybody involved. And at the end of 5 years and a lot of heartache, the most I could have gotten is $300,000. And of course, that's nothing to squawk at, but I decided my peace of mind and trying to rebuild my life and move past that was worth more than $300,000. So I didn't pursue it, but I get to openly say, Dr. Matthew Provencher severed my nerve because nobody's paid me money to set up.
Wow.
But at the end of the day, 12 months later, I didn't have any more function. And so everybody basically abandoned me and said, sorry, get on disability. And I just wanted a different way. Physical therapists wouldn't work with me because they're not trained enough in neurological issues. It's all musculoskeletal, post-surgery, things like that. And occupational therapists really focus on people with traumatic, brain injuries or paraplegics, quadriplegics, things like that. So because I could dress myself and feed myself, they didn't have a lot to offer me. And I had to find another way. So that's kind of the quick and dirty of that. But I will say it seems as though I have a mild form of what's called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And it's a autoimmune disease. My mother had epidermolysis bullosa and their sister genetic conditions. So it kind of does explain a lot about my connective tissue, but nonetheless.
And so the autoimmune disorder is the one that creates the hypermobility in the body?
Yes. And I always thought I don't have Ehlers-Danlos because I don't have like hypermobile joints, but there's so many varying degrees of it on I guess you could say a spectrum, and it affects people very, very differently.
One of the examples of it, or one of the symptoms of it, is if you can take the skin on your chest and pull it out like 2 or 3 inches. And you remember we did that video shoot together and 5 out of 8 of us had it.
I don't have it.
I didn't have it and you didn't have it, but the other 5 people in the room were symptomatic of Ehlers-Danlos, which explains why they were doing 4 series, which is weird, I think. Which is problematic, probably.
Believe me, I think it's, a friend of mine said, oh, well, how cool that you got into yoga. And I was like, I don't really know that doing yoga with someone with my condition was probably
right. Yeah.
Well,
but
some
I love
types of yoga for sure. I mean, probably the strengthening components are really helpful, right?
Oh my God. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't think that doing my practice ever made anything any worse. I just think that as I'm getting older, my symptoms are becoming more apparent.
That happens. That does happen, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious how then you rehabilitated your nerve damage and your body through the practice, because it seems like the practice would be something that is kind of impossible to a certain extent if you can't use your shoulder and your trapezius and your rotator cuff. How did you find yourself rehabilitating your body?
So I couldn't do my practice. I lived in a sling for 12 months of my life, literally between the surgeries and the recoveries and things. And when I was left to my own devices, my arm just hung by the side, but it was like my whole body was destroyed. My whole kinetic chain was so messed up at that point. And I tried to do yoga, but I couldn't lift my arm. I couldn't rotate my arm. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't bear weight in my arm. And back then I couldn't even, it's like I'd gotten so messed up from all of the trauma that it was hard for me to try to sit or meditate or try to sit and do pranayama. And even that kind of triggered me because that reminded me of my previous life and everything else. So I really, really struggled for a while, but I really give a lot of credit to a man named Dr. Joe Dispenza, because my meditation practice in the past was primarily one-pointed focus. I never listened to guided meditations of any kind, really. And I was in a really, really deep, dark point. And I found some of his stuff on YouTube. I listened to a bunch of his videos. I listened to his own story of him breaking his back and healing himself. I learned in the process that pretty much everything he was teaching was yoga and yoga based. But he didn't use those words as to not ostracize anybody who, just wanted to try to learn how to sit quietly and be present. And then I did a couple of his courses, and I bought a bunch of his meditations. And my favorite one is called Introducing Your Body to a New Mind by Dr. Joe Dispenza. It's a 45-minute guided meditation. And all of the coursework that I learned, he's very into mental rehearsal. I read all of his books. And it's all stuff we know, but it was from a different perspective, a fresh take on things. So if I can look at it from a different lens, maybe it can help bring me back to that those tools. And that's exactly what it did. What I then would do, I got this routine where every morning I would sit and I would literally close my eyes and do my Ashtanga yoga practice in my mind with a blindfold on. Then I would sit and do his 45-minute guided meditation, introducing your body to a new mind. And after doing that for about 3 months, then instead of doing my practice in my mind, I started coming to my mat and I would actually put my blindfold back on to sensory deprivation so I could really focus on everything that I was doing. And it was dirty. It didn't look very good, but I was starting to try to do something again.
What had changed physically that you could start to do something at all?
Well, nothing had changed. Well, 2 things had changed. Number one, I had started doing certain movements, which I'll explain in a minute. But then when I would do anything, I would interlace my hand, this like dead arm with my right to raise the arm.
Amazing.
And then I would just slowly bring my hand down, touch the floor, fold forward. Then I would lift and look forward. Then that might be my entire sun salutation. I'd come back to standing because I couldn't at that point bear weight through my scapula at all. Things like that. And some basic standing postures where I didn't need much of movement through my arms. So my practice was very, very modified and very different, but I would do something. And the other piece that changed for me was kind of applying the tools of mental rehearsal, but also mind work and what I call mindscaping. I believed the work of Dr. Joe, and I did a lot more research into neuroplasticity and how we can truly, I believe we can heal ourselves, but like I remember I did 3 of his retreats, and I'll never forget the first retreat. We do a healing session. So as the retreat attendees, we would do these, what do you call it? They're far away. The people are far away. There's a word for it. I can't think of it, but we would do them like a remote. Yes. Thank you. So we would get a picture of someone. We don't know who they are, where they live, what's wrong with them. But 100 of us in the group would be meditating on this one person in this remote healing session. And the very first retreat, the next day, Dr. Joe came out and brought this woman out live on camera and showed the day before she had these insane rashes and she'd been dealing with this for years. And with a day, it was gone. It was gone. And there were lots of different beautiful healing stories. And I remember thinking, well, they can heal themselves of these things, but my nerve can't regrow. It's been too long because I've been really trained into you have 18 months window of nerve recovery of any kind, whether it's neuropathy or this or that. And I at first thought I was going to regrow my nerves and I was going to get back to who I used to be and how I used to function with that muscle control. And so I really believed that. So I would mentally work on that. Then I was studying the body. I feel like I got a PhD in the scapula and all the nerves around the scapula and all the muscles and how they work. And I knew in the beginning to convince myself that maybe my nerves could regrow. I just had to get back to some form of function and mobility that was somewhat normal. And so I learned how to begin recruiting other muscles that were accessory muscles to do the job first, as opposed to my supraspinatus can't initiate that first 15 degrees of elevation. Well, my deltoid can. And then, my infraspinatus can't externally rotate, but a little bit of your rear deltoid can. So I was just really trying to get my brain to think about those muscles and to picture those muscles. And I would do these very, very small movements, either on my back or my side or my stomach, just to start to get my body to connect with that piece of me again. Because after your nerve is severed, actually I've learned this too. If you had surgery, somebody did surgery on your knee, then anytime your tissue's cut, your brain body connection is very different. So you have to rebuild that connection. Obviously, that's one reason why physical therapy is important. But on a deeper level, it's really retraining how your neurological system connects with your musculoskeletal system. So I was using those concepts and those principles more in theory at first and thinking about them, and then applying simple movements to help my body respond. And it was working. So I just kept doing it. So every day I would do somewhat of a yoga practice. I would spend a lot of time with what I call now body mechanics. I don't even call it physical therapy because it's so different. Every move I make, I was as much in my brain, connecting my brain to my body as I was in my body or doing a movement. And I saw insane results with it. I will say I don't have those nerves anymore. I don't have those muscles anymore, which I have finally come to a place of acceptance for. Because it took me a couple of years of just convincing myself, I promise they're going to come back. They're going to come back. We're going to manifest. They're going to come back. And now I'm in a place where I have function again. I can use my arm. I can bear weight. There's a lot of things I can't do. If I held a gallon of milk out in front of me, my arm falls. But there's a lot of things I can do now. And so
that's amazing.
really how I did it. I mean, between mental rehearsal, meditation, definitely my pranayama, I got back into that. And that's something that when you do more advanced work with Dr. Dispenza, he doesn't call it pranayama, but he has special breath work that helps to really activate the pineal gland and really helps send you out into that space of meditation. And I love all that. And all of that just helped bring me home. And I will say I had to mourn the loss of my asana practice. And I feel like a lot of us have. And to find my way back was hard. And then to find my way back and feel that I was so different and I'll never be the same. And then also add on top of that, I'm getting older. It's been a journey. But then when I got to this place of acceptance, it actually became really joyful again. So I really enjoy my practice now. But it's taken me a long time to get back there.
I think that's something that people really fear is and fight against actually in themselves often when they're faced with whether it's injury, illness, or just like a lack of motivation or feeling like I don't really want to do this, but I have to do this. And it becomes a bit of an inner war. And, you know, it's like one thing I've learned, you know, through all the coach training is when resistance comes up, you don't resist the resistance. Right.
Exactly.
And because then you're creating an extra layer of resistance on top of what's already there. And it creates that inner turmoil, that inner struggle. And so I think a lot of people really fear like what happens if I don't resist the resistance or if I don't fight for my practice and I don't force myself to do it and I don't, you know, make myself do this routine over and over and over again, even though, you know, maybe my body can't or I'm not feeling well or everything in me is saying no.
It's really hard. And I just can say that when I was younger, and we all go through that where we're, you know, call it burnout, call it anything, where we're struggling to get to the mat and we just make ourselves get there because we know we'll feel better when we're done. If there's a few things I'm grateful for from all of this experience with the nerve damage, it's that now I just see the asana practice so differently. And it's such a joy to do it. Days that I'm tired or days that I'm not feeling my best, I get to my mat and I do what I can. And I don't judge it. I don't question it. I don't try to push myself too hard. I just show up and it's a whole different space now. And then the days that I'm really energized and I want to do more, then I feel like I'm in my late 20s again and I can push harder and do more. But I just don't have, all I now have for asana practice is joy because it's something, you know, it's funny too. From the earliest days of teaching Ashtanga yoga, I would always tell students, once you learn this practice, no one can take it away from you. And I really meant that. And I believed that. And I don't blame any. I don't feel like somebody took it away from me. It was taken away from me. My experience, what happened to me took away the asana practice for a long time. And I had to fight to get it back. But what's so cool is I genuinely wanted it back. So I found a way to get back to it. And now I won't allow myself to look at it as anything other than joyful. And I try so hard to teach clients that now, you know, but it's really hard because it's all in our own minds, right? When we come to the mat, we're bringing all of our stuff with us. So the practice helps you work through that stuff or not. But I really feel such joy for it. And I'm so grateful for this beautiful Ashtanga yoga practice. And I'll never be able to do advanced stuff like I used to again. And I had started doing third series again, getting ready for Miami. And when I went to Miami this past year, and I was doing third series when I was in Miami, but I haven't done third series since Sharat passed away. Not to say that I won't get back to it, but when I saw him in 2023, it gave me this renewed feeling of being connected to our lineage and to our teacher, because I hadn't been able to go to India since my nerve damage. And then when I saw him in 2024, I'll never forget the first thing he said to me when I got to go pay my respects. We had done one lead second series class, and he just said, "You've improved so much since last year." And that meant everything to me, because I didn't feel like he was saying, "Oh, your postures have gotten more beautiful." It meant your function looks a whole lot better, Krista. And kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, you know, what does it look like for me now that Sharat's gone? I had closed my studio after my nerve damage, and I had convinced myself that I was never going to teach again and had to kind of find a new path forward. And then slowly, nobody would give me a job because they said, "We won't hire somebody who had their own business. We're not here to give you an interim in between something." And it was so hard for me to to get a normal 9-to-5 job. And so I started slowly teaching a little bit again here and there. And I learned how to do audio narration, a lot of other stuff. But my point is that apparently teaching wasn't done with me. And then I was renting time out of this birthing center, and we outgrew that, and the birthing center was moving to a new location. And ultimately it just kind of fell apart where they didn't have space for us to rent time out of anymore. And so then I was left, okay, do I rent a studio or do I rent time out of some other building? And I was so, to your point, Harmony, I was so resistant to having a brick and mortar studio again that I tried for a month to find a place I could rent time out of, but everything was so massively expensive per hour that it would have been cheaper to rent a building. And so then last May 4th, I opened the yoga stall again, since we had closed in January 2020 or April of 2021. But it was like the universe was like, sorry, I don't really know what you're thinking, but this is the path. And you're just going to keep making these choices until you figure out what's going on. And so then when I saw Sharat in October in Miami, he had actually asked me to assist him that week. And I did. And that was another solidification to me. Not only does he see I'm healing, but he sees that I'm strong enough to hold space and help assist students, his students. So that all of these things were building me up to this place of like, okay, maybe I know where I'm supposed to be again. And then he passed away. And I have been very much not questioning. I love teaching yoga. I love this practice. If anything, I have more desire to hold space in an authentic Mysore program than ever before because he's not here anymore. But I still feel very lost, and I still feel a whole lot of emotions. And I understand or assume that we all feel that way. Any of us who are part of this community and really loved Sharat very deeply and loved having a teacher, and loved being part of this beautiful lineage. So not that that's gone. And even Sharat's still with us, but it's different. And I'm still trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do now. You know what I mean?
It's really kind of beautiful what you've just described. This whole journey is extraordinarily inspiring. Especially when you come to the joy of just of living. You know, the unbearable lightness of being. You know, it is unbearable at points, and it's like if you were writing a book about this, you could see this as this would be your metaphor about the eightfold path that Gautama Buddha takes, as you know, very similar to him. You know, when we were in Mysore, we were like little rich, beautiful princes, so naive and so in love and so happy and oh, the world's beautiful, and like, yeah, there's a lot of leprosy, but like we're having a great time. And then at a certain point, I think for all of us who are now middle-aged and that entire generation before us who went through this, you start to grieve. Like, oh, Derek Ireland didn't beat prostate cancer with Ashtanga yoga and he died. Oh, okay. Same as Rolf. Like, oh, fuck. We're actually going to die. And we're actually going to grind ourselves to dust. And like, there's no getting out of that. And then there's grief, deep grief that the Buddha felt, you know, realizing that everything is impermanent. Like, that's a deep grief. But then you realize the opportunity like you have. And there's joy, and it's really beautiful, like to hear the whole schematic playing out for you in the same way.
I am grateful for everything I have, and I think it takes us losing everything, obviously, to get to this place where we can recognize the beauty of life, or the simplicity of life, or the things that really bring us joy. And I do love this practice, and I do love teaching, and I. Thinking back to when I was trying to convince myself I had to find another way, it was such a grief for me. It was such a loss. And to realize that we can accept loss and then find new space to move forward from there has been one of the greatest lessons for me and gifts for me. And impermanence. I love that you mentioned that, because I'm sure as you all are aging, you're feeling the same way. I'm grieving something every day, every single day. And the practice when I was younger, I felt like really was such a great place for me to go to hold space for myself, then to be able to re-enter the world. Now, as I'm older, I see it very differently. I see the world being a place to hold me, teach me lessons, and then to go into my practice and work with my mind and then go back and show up in my life. I just feel like I'm showing up so differently now. And I don't even think that it took my nerve injury. I think it's aging, right? Like last time that we were chatting, I remember you guys talking about, certain things that you're not doing with your practice anymore. And it was so nice to hear because we don't just have to stop. We don't just have to give up if we can't bind our ankles anymore,
Or bind Marie Jasna D. Let's be honest. It's pretty brutal.
Right. And when I started this practice in the generation before us, I didn't know many of those senior teachers very well, and they were all aging and I didn't have relationships with them. And then many of us all the same age kind of going through the practice together. And I just love seeing those of us that are getting older, finding ways to continue to enjoy the practice, even if things change and even if our practice changes. I think that's really priceless.
Yeah, I think that's a good observation too. I mean, so many of the senior teachers, well, first of all, there wasn't that many senior teachers when we were coming up in our generation. And I feel like they weren't really actually very open about how they were practicing or what they were practicing. I mean, Chuck Miller was the most open of the senior teachers that I ever worked with about his practice. And he told me the best practice I have is lying with legs up the wall. And I said, what? That's what you do? You just lie with your legs up the wall? He said, it's amazing. You should try it one day.
I would argue David Roche and Manju were very open with me about what they were able to do. Manju said, I do Urdhva Kukutasana. That's about it. That's my favorite posture. That's all I do. And then David was saying, I've got 7 postures left that I can do. I've got this thyroid. I can do 7. I counted them. I can do 7 postures. That's what I do. And that, that was,
actually, Richard did say that too. He said he does about 4 postures.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a few, but mostly people were kind of I don't know, holding up the illusion of I'm still practicing 2 hours of asana every day.
I'm 55 years old and I'm still doing 5th series.
Strutting around Mysore like I'm a 5th series practitioner. You saw a lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think.
And I have this preconceived notion that I would be in my 60s doing super advanced postures, and I am in my early 40s and I'm not doing that anymore. Yeah. So, Harmony, I agree with you. I just feel like we just weren't being told much about.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of transparency there. I mean, I think it's come more as more practitioners have continued to practice as they age. I think a lot of practitioners that were younger before maybe we started practicing Ashtanga yoga ended up quitting in their 40s because they're like, man, this is too hard.
I've got kids. I'm going to play golf and sell pharmaceuticals in Montreal.
Right? And then all of a sudden the kids grow up and then maybe you get back to your practice or you come back to Ashtanga yoga at some point because you have more time and energy and the ability to focus on it. Because the truth is it does take a lot of focus to maintain that kind of rigorous, advanced asana practice. Even doing primary series is an advanced asana practice. Out in the world of yoga, I'm out there. I'm taking classes now at different random classes just for fun, for the joy of movement and being in touch with community and other people practicing. It's nothing like Ashtanga yoga. It's it's lovely. It's movement based. There's a ton of standing postures. It really, you get into your thighs a lot, but it's not an hour and a half of rigorous vinyasa and postures that are really, really hard.
It resembled my time in California a great deal when you took me.
Primary series postures are not easy. Not easy at all. So I think we sometimes in the Ashtanga community, we get very myopic about
definitely.
Yeah, what practice means. And I'm only doing primary series. It's
that's really hard.
That's actually really hard.
Let's be real.
Let's be real.
Let's pull back.
Yeah.
And so we get this very strange kind of attachment to advanced asanas that like most people in the 90% of the yoga practitioners in the world don't have this crazy obsession about advanced asana postures.
Yeah, I see 90% of the yoga practitioners that I see have really tight hips.
Yeah, they're just kind of like moving their body and like feeling the benefits of the practice, which isn't that the whole point of the asana?
I was just going to say, I remember when Pattabhi Jois would talk about, many people, they get it with half primary series. You don't need more. Some people, it takes a lot more.
Yeah, most people just get it with standing sequence. That's what I've noticed.
They're enjoying themselves to a degree, I suppose.
Yeah, totally. But I actually appreciate that we've been talking about this because, I don't know, it was pretty recent. It seemed like this big trend on Instagram, why I quit Ashtanga yoga.
Yeah. Did you do that?
And I have to say, too, I remember when Pattabhi Jois passed away. And of course, there was a lot of change. And I expected that when she passed away. I was like, only God knows what we're going to see over the next 6-12 months in terms of people's choices of practice. But I just feel like the why I quit Ashtanga is personally kind of silly.
It's hilarious because when we started, there was 200 people. And we're a long way from getting back to 200 people. And when there were 200 people, it was really cool for us. It was
nice.
Awesome.
Oh my God.
It was so cool, so niche, I guess is a way of describing it. And if there's still 2,000 people doing Ashtanga yoga, it's still too many.
I just think if we can all stop taking ourselves so seriously and stop taking the practice so seriously, it's a serious practice. Be disciplined with it, be consistent with it, but then find yourself in it, and this is me at 43 saying, if I could have said that to my 20-year-old self, that would have been hilarious. Yeah. But yeah, aging helps us learn a lot.
Yeah.
I think.
I think also, we get very focused on the asana, and Ashtanga yoga means all 8 limbs, not just this one particular type of asana. And so, you're allowed to quit the asana practice and continue to practice Ashtanga yoga.
Pattabhi Jois did. He quit it. He quit. After 30 years, he quit.
He wasn't up there doing primary series every morning.
No, he did his pranayama.
You can do pranayama, and you can tap into these other tools, right?
All the other tools. And I will say, I agree with you, Harmony. I feel like we get very so focused on the asana, but the whole point of the asana, and I try to think about that more and more, we're a lineage of householders. The asana practice is for those younger years of our lives that we're raising our children and we're doing our jobs. And then when we retire and our children are grown, we're not really supposed to even need asana anymore. That's when we can then really focus more and more on pranayama and meditation. So it helps me reframe the focus anyway, that for me, the asana now is truly, it sets my day. It's a consistent, beautiful, disciplined thing. It feels good in my body. And if it doesn't feel good, I don't do those things. But I definitely spend more of my time on the other limbs of yoga now. And I would love to see as we all age that it's okay not to bind in Marichyasana D. It's okay not to back, even do deep back bends anymore if that doesn't feel good to you.
Yeah, it's okay to quit the practice and come back to it too. It's okay.
Totally. I'm so glad you mentioned that because I feel like that's the hardest thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's I don't care if it's because you left for a year just to do other things, you went into other practices and then you came back, or maybe you had a baby, or maybe you had an injury or whatever. But it seems like, gosh, the hardest thing to get back to Ashtanga when you've left it.
But sometimes you need to. Sometimes, like you said, you need to leave something in order to come back fresh and start from a place that doesn't have all of the trauma, all of the past impressions, all of the samskaras of your previous self. And there's something really powerful to that.
I think so too. I just think if people did leave and want to come back, for me, it really showed me how much I love the practice and all the real reasons why, not the superficial reasons that I thought I did. And I feel like that with anything, when we lose something or we lose a person or we stop doing something, we get the opportunity to reflect and realize, wow, did I really love that or did I not love that? Do I miss it? Do I not miss it? Do I yearn to have it back or not?
Yeah.
And I think it's healthy.
Totally.
It's true. And I've somehow, Harmony and our son went to Turkey, and I found myself yearning to do Ashtanga yoga and I got back and I was like, I'm doing half primary every day again. Like, I was yearning for it. And I'm thinking about it right now. I was like, I'm eating up a lot of time doing this podcast. How can I make sure to get back and do my yoga practice later? You know, I gotta find time for it because I'm yearning for it. And it's but not because I'm going to get anything out of it other than because I like doing it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And what a beautiful place, isn't it?
Yeah. And I've said this many times on this podcast before, and I'm sorry to say it again, but like one of the most damaging things for my practice was going to Mysore and being somewhat competitive at it. And I mean, both like I was competing and doing well, and I was in a competitive mindset. And it was really super destructive to a practice that I was really enjoying doing on my own at that time.
Makes sense, totally. And I just want to actually, I don't know that you even know this, but back many, many years ago when I was first learning Pincha Mayurasana and Karandavasana, there were like maybe 3 YouTube videos at all on the posture, and I obsessed over yours every day. I watched 100 times. I was like, how does this man just press up like that?
I was a boy, not a man. That was one thing. And you know, that I got so much flack from that video. So many people came out of the woodwork to say that I was like cheating Patabi Joy, cheating the practice. You know, like, how dare you have a YouTube channel? Can you imagine in this day and age calling someone out for having a social media presence?
I know, right? I'm truly shocked that you called out about it, because I personally found it so helpful. This was before I was really starting to go to India and stuff. And maybe I'd already been going to India, but I didn't have any teachers in Orlando. I literally, when I would go to India, that was all I got in terms of studying with a teacher. And I found it to be extremely helpful. And I was really inspired by it, Russell. Like, so
750,000 views. If that happened to you today, if your TikTok got 750,000 views, you'd get a brand. You'd get a marketing deal.
You sure get a lot more followers.
And you get like all these followers. And like, when I got so much shit from the senior students, and not the, you know, I was like, oh, I'll never do another video again, I guess.
Until just kept doing them.
If I just done one every day, I'd be the most famous Ashtanga yogi alive.
Probably would have been.
It's true.
Yeah.
Paths.
Who's Kano?
Paths not taken.
I know.
It's pretty badass, actually. It's amazing. I really admire your journey, Russell. And I mean, I obviously have a little more history with you because of the Joyce Foundation and stuff, but I value both of you so much. You both hold authentic space to keep this practice alive, and you truly love it. And it's people like you that are part of this community that just brings me so much joy, especially when I think about how things are changing and how we don't know where we'll be in a few years with this practice. So
I learned so much being your supervisor. The roles should have absolutely been reversed. You would have been so much better at my job than I was, but I learned so much from you trying to help you do the job that we had asked you to do. And it was great. It was just awesome watching you be a professional. I learned so much about how to be a professional from you.
I feel the same way. You are always so calm, and you are always just so, you never seem to lose your cool. I mean, maybe you do, but I learned a lot from you in that capacity regarding being professional and trying to always maintain your calm, because I'm very all over the place, and I'm a woman. I have lots of emotions. So right. The feeling is mutual. I learned a great deal from you as well, Russell.
That's awesome.
It's so interesting. I think the journey of being in a community like we are, and getting to know people over years. And it's been a long time. I think we met in 2003.
Mm-hmm.
That's like 23 years ago.
You two met in 2003. Wow.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
before your first trip.
It was, or 2024
Yeah.
we met. 2024, actually. It was right after my first trip.
2004.
No, I met you before your first trip. I vividly remember you telling me about. I may be
It was
wrong.
right
but I thought
after
it was
my
before
first trip. I remember.
Okay.
It was November of 2024.
2004.
Or yeah, 2004, not 2024. Oh my gosh.
I understand.
2004.
Mhm.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, that's like almost 23 years, right? 20, 22, 20, what, 22
It's
years?
22
A
years.
long
20,
time
almost
ago.
22 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, just to like, I don't know, spend, I think we're very lucky in that in this community, we have relationships over a long period of time in our adult life with other humans that we share common interests with, that we share connection with, that we grow, together and apart and together and apart and together again, and just get to be like a family that is a global family.
Mhm.
It's very rare, actually. You don't realize this when you're in your 20s going to Mysore. You think that this is just the way life is. But when I look back and I meet people in other communities and other adults in their 40s or 30s or 50s, they don't have this type of global connection.
Yeah.
And also adult relationships with so many other amazing human beings over decades.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much a gift to be a part of.
I think you have to be in a sorority or something for that. I think that's normally how
but
that
even
works.
then it's like 10 people or 20 people. It's not like,
well, you see people with their brand
and most of those
tattoo.
people you don't like either.
Well,
I think if you're in a sorority, you probably do like it.
I don't know. But like, what do you share? That's the thing. Like, what common interests do you share as a thread through your life?
Well, see, this is something that we were coming back to. Is again, it's about white privilege. That's what binds us together in Ashtanga yoga is white privilege. All these old teachers that went back to practice, their rich white parents died, left them a house, and they said, "Oh, I'm going to do Ashtanga yoga again, go back to Mysore." That's what's happening here. We keep glossing over privilege over and over again and just assume white privilege for everyone.
That's
people
true.
are watching this show like those crackers.
I think in a church community, actually, speaking of.
There you go. You could have done that. But even still, you don't have global connections.
Right.
I mean, I would struggle to find something that even is comparable to what we get to
Maybe
experience.
the Catholics.
Maybe.
The missionaries.
The nuns. The nuns and the Catholic missions all over the world share a wonderful relationship and fraternity.
So tell us about this new class that you've created.
Okay. Let's jump into the next subject. So you're talking about body mechanics?
Yes.
Yeah. So at the Shala, so we reopened last May after being closed for a couple of years. We have our morning Mysore program, which is doing really, really well. We're actually going to start an evening Mysore program next Monday. But then when I opened the Shala, I had been, let me backtrack, doing the things that I had done to help heal myself, to get back to my Ashtanga practice. Then when I started working with clients again, it's like the universe was bringing me people with some severe issues that they needed something much more tangible. And I don't mean Ashtanga is not tangible. I mean like microscopic level movements to reintegrate ability to function with their limb or whatever was going on. And so when I was renting time out of a space, I only rented time for 2 hours a day. So I said, come into the Mysore program and I can put you in the corner and give you some specific movements to do based on what you're dealing with. So I was kind of teaching some body mechanics movements inside the Mysore classroom. But once I had my own brick and mortar space again, I wanted to create a dedicated class for that, specifically for about 4 of my clients who I'd been working with both privately and in Mysore doing body mechanics. So I started an hour-long class that I call Body Mechanics. It incorporates, you could think of it as physical therapy exercises or similar to, but really connecting brain-body connection. Everything's done in your stomach, back, or side. So I've been doing that at my studio for the past year. I was doing it twice a week. Now we're going to be up to 4 times a week with that class. And I will say the majority of clients who come in are a little bit older and or have been referred to me. There's a number of doctors that are now starting to refer patients to come to this class because it's very, very low impact, but it really does show tangible results to reduce pain, to help reintegrate better movement modalities and function. So it's called Body Mechanics. And I really love teaching it because I get to work, in Ashtanga. I mean, not to say that people who have physical issues or limitations can't practice that. By no means do I ever mean that. I just know with my limb, I had everything I needed, but I was missing a couple muscles and a couple nerves. And it really did disconnect me from being able to get into my practice. But by doing body mechanics for a long period of time, I was able to get back to my asana practice. So I work with clients who really have less function, need a little bit different type of approach to getting reacquainted with their body. And many of the clients, once they get better, or feel like they're moving better, will also start doing the Ashtanga classes too. And then they might do 1 body mechanics or 2 body mechanics classes per week. But yeah, I'm really proud of that program because it was birthed out of me feeling abandoned by Western medicine, not even kidding. Yeah. When nothing worked and everybody was sort of like, oops, so sorry. Get on disability and good luck. And I just feel like, I know I'm not alone. I know that there's a lot of people out there, and I don't just mean people with neurological issues like nerve damage. I mean, it could truly just be like a frozen shoulder is a great example, right? Yeah. They stop using their limb, and then every time they use that limb, it hurts so much that they stop using the limb, and then it affects everything in their kinetic chain. And then they find themselves 5 years down the road not knowing what to do because they're in so much pain. It feels so debilitating. They're depressed, but nobody's helping them. And so this is just such a soft landing point for people because very tangible exercise movements, a lot of focus on what are you thinking about? What are you doing with that limb? How do you feel? Does that leg feel heavier? Does that leg feel stronger? Which is your dominant side? Do you know that? These are the types of questions that I ask in that class just to help people gain better body awareness. And it's beautiful to see what happens when people come to that class consistently. People feel a lot better. They get a lot more function. And I will say, primarily every movement is either to do with your scapula or to do with your hips. And we'll do isolated movements with different parts of the body, but everything starts in the upper extremity from the scapula and awareness of the scapula. And everything starts the lower extremity with awareness of your hips and your pelvis. And it's just, I love teaching it, and I continue to kind of nerd out and dig deeper into learning more about neuroscience and neuroplasticity because it just inspires me more on how to help new people. There's one doctor in town I've never met, but has sent me a couple clients, and it's the most incredible and joyful thing I've ever experienced. This particular doctor is a psychologist, and he is sending me clients who are dealing with either and this isn't body mechanics. They're actually coming to my yoga class, or they're booking a private session to learn about pranayama meditation. But to see that some of these doctors now are sending people to learn tools to help them manage themselves. Like, it's mind blowing, right? Like, not medication, not something else, but like, hey, go learn how to sit and be present, or hey, go learn how to move your body and breathe. So I'm so inspired right now with the work that I'm doing with clients, and body mechanics is my second passion. Ashtanga Mysore style is still absolutely my first love and will always be. And I will say too, as I've gotten older, I enjoy teaching so much more. I don't know why exactly, but it's like, I feel like even if somebody's older than me, I feel like they're my child and I want to help them grow in their practice.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Cause I have my dominant side, and also I have my submissive side, and we've been doing some really kind of freaky sub-dom stuff and getting out the straps, and I have a little ball gag for my submissive, as I call him. And it's great. It's really cool. And I'd love to actually do some of that stuff with you in your class. That'd be cool.
It's a different class.
I think we're talking about
I will
the same
just
thing.
say, Russell, if you want to bring your dominant and submissive side to body mechanics, we offer that class for you.
Oh, awesome. That is great. I have a little homemade dungeon just for that. I'll put that up, and I'll get that all set up. That'd be cool.
Woo, that was great.
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to be speaking with you guys today and to talk about Ashtanga yoga. And I mean, the body mechanics is great, and I want to continue to teach that. I want to share that with more people. But I always preface to people who come to me and ask me specifically, like, you know, hey, do you do body mechanics now or do you do Ashtanga yoga? Ashtanga is my practice. I do body mechanics several days a week so I can maintain my function, so I can get back to my mat. But I just still to this day feel like there's no better life tool, whole encompassing life tool. As you said earlier, Harmony, you know, Ashtanga yoga is 8 limbs. And what a gift. I just have always felt like it's such a gift for those of us who found this practice in our lifetimes and have really taken it on, and taken accountability to have and maintain a practice, that we're just really, really lucky human beings. I mean, we have such incredible life skills to help navigate through this beautiful life.
Yeah.
Well, you were such a fabulous storyteller, and this story and the way that you've articulated it is amazing. I know that you're not quite ready to announce, but you are working on a book, and we're very excited to see what that is. You have a working title that you.
I do. It's called Be the Outlier, and the book, when it's all finished and was available, it's sort of a 2-part book, sort of a memoir and a functional healing guide. And the first half of the book will kind of be about my story, a little bit about my entire background, like who am I, you know, when did I start doing yoga, when I started going to India, all of that. And then explains my nerve damage, what happened, how it happened, what I went through in the process, how many surgeries I had, all that good stuff. And then the outcome of it and how I was sort of left to my own devices and given no alternative options, but sorry, so sorry. And making that choice. And I call that moment the FU door, and I'll never forget when it happened. Literally going in to do a nerve study. There's a year post-op and all this excitement that, you know, we're going to see nerve fasciculation on the nerve study, and we saw nothing. And I remember literally I'd been doing work with Dr. Joe at that point, and I remember the doctor telling me, no, that there's nothing's online in your infraspinatus, supraspinatus, middle lower trap. And I heard him, but I felt like it was an alternate universe because I was listening to him, but I was like, but you don't know what you're talking about, because I know I'm already healed. I literally just had to hold that mindset. And then when I went back to PT and said, oh, well, the nerves didn't come back, literally that day, my physical therapist dismissed me from care. And I was like, what? And then every doctor that I saw after that wasn't offering me. And basically they're like, oh, you poor, pitiful little thing. And I didn't want to be treated like a victim. I think that's a really powerful thing. I don't know that everybody can relate to that, but when we're broken, we don't need people to treat us like victims. We need people to empower us. And I just knew that I had this one ideal that I wanted to get back to my yoga practice, and come hell or high water, I would find a way to do that no matter what it looked like. And I feel like that was partly ingrained because of the community we have, the trips to India, the time on the mat, the beauty of this practice. And I don't know that I would have been able to make the same choices had I not had all the years being in this practice. So I think that's really, really important and powerful too, that people who are listening to this podcast, like every day you get to your mat, it's not in vain. And even the days that we talked about earlier where you feel burnt out or you feel exhausted, like you're building so much more than just a daily practice. And you're building so much more than just consistency or flexibility or strength or stamina or any of that stuff. Like you're building something deep inside of you. And it's this well that you can tap into. Sometimes you can't, but I genuinely believe that I couldn't have come back had I not had all of those years before. So I love this project.
Yeah. And I think also trust the investment, you know, like you say, I think we get obsessed with, you know, consistency, dedication, determination, drive, like all of this. It's like, okay, yeah, definitely. But also just trust the investment. Trust that you have a foundation that is there. And if you need to let it go, it's okay. The foundation is there. Trust yourself. If what is good is going to pull you back, what you need will draw you back. And I think, again, we operate out of this scarcity. I'm going to lose it. Okay, lose it. Lose all of the physical ability. The essence of what you need, the essence of what drew you to the practice in the first place will draw you back. If that's what you need, you know, I think we have to trust more the process.
That's beautiful.
Like trust ourselves, trust the process, trust your investment, trust the time, trust the energy. You know, you don't have to force it. You really just don't have to force it.
It's amazing because so many times I've regretted losing Kapotasana, given how hard I worked to get it. It was not easy. It took a decade, and getting it required so much time and care and maintenance. And then to have given it up was like, well, I've just thrown all those decades out the window. It's all gone now. And what a waste is the thoughts cycles, that go through. But that's a beautiful way to put it, to trust the work that was done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't have to keep doing the work. I mean, when you're painting a painting, when it's done, it's done.
You abandon it. Paintings are never finished. They're only abandoned.
You don't have to keep painting. You can move on and go to the next project.
That sounds an awful lot like resurrection.
But no, I think there's something to it. It's like it's a beautiful process, and also out of your suffering, out of the break, out of the point where you decided to take matters into your own hands, you birthed something that was really also new and beautiful and of service to other people who otherwise would definitely not be interested in Ashtanga yoga, who would definitely not be interested probably even in yoga at all, through expertise that you developed through your own, suffering and willingness to meet yourself in your suffering, with compassion. And that's really beautiful. That's why this body mechanics is going to be a powerful place for people to come, because it came from need, from a place of service and need. And so I'm really excited for you to continue that, because Ashtanga yoga isn't accessible to most people. I'm just going to put that out there.
As I said, only 200 people should do it.
Right? Like, people need an entry point to meet themselves. And if you can create entry points that feel accessible to people, and, even in your own experience, what you were saying, like, your nervous system couldn't sit, it couldn't meditate, it couldn't do pranayama, it couldn't do anything. It was just so in despair. And so to have to create a lifeline for people to meet themselves again, to come back into their body, to recognize there's a mind-body connection. I mean, to me, that is the essence of yoga. It isn't primary series. It isn't second series. It isn't advanced series. That's just bullshit. That's just moving your body in physical ways. The essence is the mind-body connection, and to create a class where people can actually experience that is profound. That is a healing experience. So thank you for the work that you're doing in the world.
And I will say too, before my nerve damage, I'm, as a teacher, it's so cool to see students progress in their practice and to master posture, and I still love all of that. But the most gratifying thing I experience now as a teacher is to have a client that can move their limb better again, or isn't having the same severe pain they were dealing with all day the day before. And so I do find so much gratification out of the work I do with body mechanics. But again, like I can think of 5 clients off the top of my head that literally could never have come into Ashtanga class, really physical issues they were dealing with, that now do both Ashtanga yoga and body mechanics. And it was through that door that they were able to not only be able to move their bodies, but to your point, feel like things are accessible. Like, okay, I now can rebuild some, not even self-worth, but like, I feel I'm capable of doing ABCD movements without pain or without dysfunction. And so now I'm willing to try something that's even more intimidating. And I know that with my teacher, we can modify things so that I can do them, but it won't hurt. It also creates trust. And I love what you said earlier about trust the process. But I will say, I feel like that's one thing most of us don't really have much anymore, is trust, towards life or people or things, experiences, whatever. And it is hard to either convince yourself to just trust the process without experiencing a reason to trust something. And so I will say, I feel like that's another sort of soft landing for body mechanics, is it gives you tangible words, tools to show yourself, trust yourself as you work through these very simple processes. And then you can build up that foundation to where you can trust yourself to experience something a little bit more, a little deeper or not. And even it goes on to with meditation and pranayama. I have clients that are so terrified of their own minds, that they can't, they'll come to yoga, but that's the extent of it. And I love seeing that evolution of, okay, now you've mastered that. So let's start pranayama. It's kind of,
give it a try. You can do it. There's one book that I wanted to mention that I think you and maybe people listening, if they're interested, if they're really dealing with trauma or suffering or autoimmune disorder or injury, it's called The 12 Stages of Healing. I think it's Donald Epstein or Donnie Epstein. He was the founder of Spinal Network Spinal, which is like network chiropractic. But what you were saying about that, FU door and really having to reclaim the power and take back the power. The 12 Stages of Healing talks about that, how when you're going through some, illness or suffering, that definitely the first, I forget what stage it is, but the first maybe 3 or 4 stages is looking for someone to help you, to heal you, to fix you. And that truly healing doesn't actually occur until you take the power back and decide that actually I'm going to be the one to heal myself now.
Well, that sounds very much like what our friend here at Krista.
Yeah, I know. That's why your story reminded me of this journey, and I was thinking, oh, it's so interesting that was.
Can you say that the name of the book again,
please?
It's called
The 12 Stages of Healing.
The 12 Stages of Healing. I will definitely check that out, because I will say, and to anybody out there, if you're dealing with any kind of traumatic anything right now, I remember vividly from the moment I started trying to get medical help to feeling like I almost lost some of my own autonomy. And I had some really, godly ego doctors. And I remember feeling very intimidated by them, but like so terrified and needing their help, and just this desperation and all of these terrible feelings that I would never wish upon anybody. But it really did take that FU door moment when everybody basically said, you can give up now. It's okay to give up now. And I was like, I have the choice now. And that's when I was like, that's not the choice I'm making. I'm making a different choice. And it is so empowering. But it's also terrifying. And I have never in my life felt the way that I felt during this whole nerve damage experience. It was so debilitating, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And I'm grateful now to say that one of the greatest gifts from that whole process was really finding my authenticity again, finding my voice again, and realizing, to your point, Harmony, we can only heal ourselves. All these external things may put a Band-Aid on it, may make you feel a little bit better. But even if you had the best medical attention and the best medical outcomes, are we healed until we actually address the stuff in our own mind and in our own way? I don't think we are, personally.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I don't think you'll be healed until you get that malpractice check, but that's just me.
She's let it go. She's moved on.
I believe in karma very much. I really, really do. And to your point, Russell, I mean, that's like a whole nother piece of it, the financial disaster that occurred. And I still live with that. I'm repaying medical debt probably till the day I die. But that's another thing that I've made peace with, because I sat in a lot of anger for a long time about, I've lost all of these things, and I built up my career and I built up my practice, and it's all an illusion, isn't it? So I love going through each day, kind of when I get really stuck in the physical space we're in, right? Whether it's pain or financial worries or whatever stresses us out, and remember that I like to think about the 5th dimension all the time. And I remember that I get to choose my reality now, and how I decide my mindset's going to be is how my mindset's going to be. And I can change that. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of a man named James Allen. I've been really into older philosophical books recently. And he wrote a book called As a Man Thinketh. It's like a really short read, but I loved this book. And it's, we are the makers and masters of our mind. And I've really been very much trying. I'm always focusing on mindset stuff because it is true. It doesn't matter what our experience is right now. If we can change our mindset, we can truly change our life. And that is ultimately the thing that healed me more than anything else. I still have issues. I still have pain every single day. But it's about how I live in my body now. And I try to look at every day as a true gift. From the moment my nerve damage happened. Things could have gone way, way worse. Believe it or not, I think they could have, and they didn't. So I can live without that, Chuck. And hopefully maybe one day I'll win the lottery or something. Who knows?
Well, maybe you'll have 500 people show up at your upcoming retreat. Tell us where people can find you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for the plug. So if you go to my website, theyogashala.com, it has all of our information about my Mysore classes, the body mechanics method, even a link to the YouTube channel. I'm teaching a retreat in Greece next July, the 10th through the 16th in Lefkada, Greece. And there's information about that as well. And just want to let everybody out there know my YouTube channel. It's just youtube.com/@yoga-with-Krista. It's kind of a hodgepodge of a lot of things. Like the first thing I wanted to do after the worst of my nerve damage was do tutorials on every posture of the primary series, just so I know I did it and it was out there for people. Amazing. But I have some body mechanics videos on the website, on the YouTube channel. I have some meditation videos, and I'm working on a pranayama series now for a lot of people who either don't have a teacher nearby or access to the funds to be able to go to a studio. I'd love to offer that resource to people as well. But theyogashala.com, you can get everything from there.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful. That's wonderful. Well, I'm sure you'll have some people reaching out because these are times where we are struggling.
But Chris, thank you so much for spending time today.
Oh my God.
It's a real pleasure to see you again and see your shining beautiful face.
Thank you. It's so nice to reconnect with you both as well. I feel like it's been way too long since I saw you. So Harmony, I'm very serious. I plan to see you soon.
Yeah, good.
Somewhere.
Come to Tenerife in January.
I am too, girl.
We're going to manifest all kinds of things for 2026. If I can figure out what year I'm living in, we'll.
26. That's coming.
Before we go today, I want to remind you that the 21-day Money Magic and Manifestation Challenge begins next week. This is a 3-week journey designed to completely shift your relationship with money and abundance. Each day, you'll receive inspiration, video teachings, journal prompts, rituals, and subconscious tools to help you release old stories, rewire limiting beliefs, and raise your energetic frequency so that wealth begins to flow with more ease. If you've been craving a reset, a way to finally feel safe holding money, to stop undercharging, or break the cycle of a dysfunctional pattern, this challenge is for you. When you sign up, you'll also gain access to the Finding Harmony community, where we gather for meditations, connect with like-minded souls, and share resources that will help to support you in your spiritual and energetic growth. You'll get access to the manifestation activation right away so that you can start shifting your energy before the challenge even begins. So, if your heart is ready to step into a whole new frequency of wealth, an entirely new timeline, now is your chance. We start next week, and I would love to connect with you inside. The link is in the show notes. Don't delay. Head straight there. Click on it, and I'll see you next week. That's it. We've concluded another episode of the Finding Harmony podcast. I just want to thank you so much for doing the work that changes the world, starting with yourself. It truly does make a huge difference. Please make sure you have your automatic downloads turned on wherever you listen so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. I have so much more magic I can't wait to share with you. Lastly, if you're on Instagram, I love connecting and hearing from you. So come on over and say hello at Finding Harmony Podcast. And you can also come say hello to me personally at Harmony Slater Official. Thank you again for being here. I cannot wait to share more with you in our next episode.